Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, former President Donald Trump now indicted for a third time. This in relation to the January 6th insurrection and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We'll have those details for you straight ahead. Plus, a possible hate crime in New York. Police now looking for the person they believe stabbed a man who was dancing to Beyonce music. What we know right now about the case and who officers are trying to track down. And with a dangerous heat wave continuing across the country, power grids nationwide are left feeling the strain. What it means for you if the lights go out. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. We begin this hour with another historic indictment for former President Donald Trump, the latest marking his third indictment in all, his second involving federal charges. The former president will be arraigned tomorrow on charges connected to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Special counsel Jack Smith says Trump committed 4 crimes that fueled the January 6th insurrection. Conspiracy to violate Americans' right to vote, conspiracy to defraud the government, and obstructing and conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding. White House correspondent Haley Bull has had her hands full with this 45-page indictment and joins us now live. So Haley, Special Counsel Jack Smith doesn't address the public often, but this indictment really speaks for him. Walk us through its top lines.
Yeah, Veronica, it's a very detailed indictment, and it says Trump was determined to remain in power as it details the alleged conspiracies to defraud and obstruct the 2020 election. Notably, the indictment stemming from the special counsel's investigation into January 6th and the 2020 election says Trump has a right to speak out about the election and even make false claims of fraud, but that he also, quote, pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting election results. Now, the indictment largely reflects the details unveiled last year during the House January 6th committee hearings. This lays out the alleged efforts by Trump and 6 co-conspirators to spread false claims of election fraud, fraudulently change electors, try to use the Justice Department to conduct what the indictment calls sham investigations, pressure both state officials and then Vice President Mike Pence, and then repeat knowingly false claims as Trump rallied his supporters on January 6th. Now, the indictment seeks to debunk Trump's claims and actions in the 7 targeted states listed of Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And it also lists those who notified Trump that the claims were not substantiated, including Pence, senior Justice Department officials, the Director of National Intelligence, CISA, White House attorneys, senior staffers in his re-election campaign, and state officials. The special counsel ties the efforts alleged in this document to the insurrection. Listen.
The attack on our nation's Capitol on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
And the special counsel says they will seek a speedy trial. Trump is summoned to appear in court tomorrow. The U.S. Secret Service says they are working with law enforcement partners to ensure his safety while limiting disruption to normal court proceedings. Veronica.
Now, Haley, we know that the former president is vocal, especially when it comes to social media. What has he been saying? I mean, how has his campaign responded? How has he responded?
Well, the Trump campaign calls these fake charges a witch hunt and repeats a phrase we have heard them often use as Trump has faced multiple legal challenges, and that's that the Justice Department is being, quote, weaponized. On Truth Social this morning, Trump said he's never had so much support and said that the indictment has, quote, awoken the world to the corruption scandal and failure that has taken place in the United States. Now, this largely continues what we have seen from Trump as he's faced legal challenges and tried to spin those troubles into political points. But these are serious charges, and his legal team is perhaps giving some insight into their argument as they prepare to defend the former president. In an interview with CNN, a Trump attorney framed the indictment as an attack on free speech and really downplayed the efforts laid out in the indictment, boiling it down to what he called political debate. Listen.
There's nothing wrong about that. In fact, in the indictment itself, it doesn't allege that there was anything wrong. And the final ask that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was simply pause the voting. There's nothing inherently unconstitutional or illegal about that. In fact, he had an opinion from a very well-known constitutional scholar that said that's fine, that that's legal.
And of course, the indictment they're laying out the opposite of what John Lauro is saying there. Now, Lauro also indicated that they take issue with the speed the government is seeking here in this case. And of course, the timing notable with this as 2024 plays out in the backdrop of all this as Trump navigates being a candidate and a defendant now in multiple federal cases, Veronica.
That's right, Haley. We've definitely heard the reaction from Republicans. What about the other side of the aisle? What are you hearing from Democrats on this?
Well, Democratic congressional leadership have spoken out about this, calling the indictment the most serious and consequential indictment, recalling the events of January 6th. But when it comes to the White House and the Biden campaign, it's silence. You are not hearing any reaction or statement from them. And that's really in line with how they have treated Trump's legal troubles to date. They've been very careful to avoid commenting directly on the legalities, previously only going so far as to reiterating their respect for the independence of the Justice Department. But keep in mind, in the past, Biden has ran on democracy, the values of democracy, and he hasn't shied away from talking about January 6th, threats to democracy, or what he has previously called MAGA extremists in previous remarks. But when it comes to this indictment and the specific legal cases the former president is facing, it does not seem likely we will see any commentary from President Biden or the White House. In fact, Biden is on vacation this week. He went to dinner and to see the movie Oppenheimer in the hours after the indictment was made public, Veronica.
All right, White House correspondent Haley Bull. Haley, thank you so much. So the indictment notes 7 places where Trump and his co-conspirators tried to put forth fake electors, including one in Arizona. The Secretary of State for Arizona spoke with Scripps News tonight after that indictment came down.
Our team that ran a great election in 2020 is now absolutely vindicated. So for all those folks out there who, shed all the blood, sweat, and tears back in 2020, just to get blamed for something they didn't do, to get lied at, and have their integrity called into question, I feel vindicated for them and for myself and for all of the voters in Arizona.
Still ahead, what do we know about the 6 co-conspirators mentioned in the latest indictment? National political correspondent Alex Miller takes a closer look. Again, that's straight ahead in our next half an hour right here on Scripps News Live. So Bill Swore is a criminal defense attorney in Michigan, a state where the Justice Department says Trump co-conspired with his allies to interfere in the 2020 election. He joins us now live. Bill, thank you so much for your time today. Let's go ahead and pick up right there. 2 friends of the former president being charged in a separate case in Michigan for tampering with voting machines. How serious are these charges, and what types of penalties would they carry?
Well, the charges in Michigan are serious. Tampering with voting machines goes right to the heart of our political system, our voting system, if we can't rely on it. And that's what people have tried to do ever since the 2020 election, is that they've tried to call into question the validity of our machines. And every time, every lawsuit, every investigation, whether bipartisan or Republican or by police officials, have said that there's nothing wrong with these machines. These machines are accurate, and their polling results were accurate. The fact is, these people are charged with taking machines out of the appropriate legal channels, opening the machines, and tampering with them to try to get them to create false results. Uh, that undermines people's confidence, because if people think that the machine they're voting on has been tampered with, there's an excuse there to not believe the election. And we saw from January 6th, not believing in the validity of the election can lead to pretty violent activities.
Bill, I want to go ahead and move on to former President Trump now, the 4 charges that he is facing. What stands out to you the most? What are you making of the indictment as a whole? And what types of penalties could the president or former president be facing right now?
I think he's facing 20 years in prison. Not that he's going to receive 20 years, but that's the statutory maximum. These are very serious charges, and I think the grand jury was very careful and very detailed in its indictment, spelling out step by step by step, not only the illegality, but the fact that Mr. Trump knew what he was saying was false, that he was undermining the system of government. And the narrative, I think, is clear. You know, as a businessman, as a private individual, you can see that when someone appears to lose negotiations or lose in court or lose something like that, you know, as a person, they have a right to try and get around it, you could say. But as a public official, as the president of the United States, his duty was to the system, to the process. His duty was to follow the rules. And what he did here, according to the indictment, was attempt to go around the rules in every way that he could. I mean, this indictment says not only that people told him, but the indictment says he told people that he knew that he had lost. I don't want to have a fight with the defense counsel, because I'm defense counsel, but I think this indictment does say that Mr. Trump did something wrong and knew that he was doing something wrong.
And to your point, Bill, because you had mentioned that you do believe that Trump could be facing 20 years, that he potentially could be facing a conviction in this case. Could Trump then run for president? I mean, how would that work?
Well, I think he could run for president. The question of whether he could take office or not if he was elected is for other scholars, or is for scholars. Okay, I don't want to put myself in that category, but he could certainly run for office. There is no prohibition about someone seeking election when they're under indictment or even if they're convicted. Question is whether they're qualified, and there's always the 14th Amendment question. And so if Republicans choose to nominate him, he's a candidate.
I want to go ahead and bring up a clip from Trump's attorney and talk about strategy for a second, because he's calling this indictment politics. Take a listen to this.
This is politics. This indictment is about pure politics. We engage in vigorous debate in this country about politics. What we don't do is criminalize political speech. This indictment is a game changer. It's the first time that we've taken political speech and said we're going to criminalize it by the party that's in control against the party that's contesting the next election, where the two individuals involved are going to be running for office. That is an incredible set of circumstances.
All right, so it seems like his defense team plans to build their defense around this so-called violation of free speech. What do you make of this strategy, Bill?
Well, when I'm representing somebody in a politically sensitive case, I make it a point to keep my mouth shut so that I don't get my words thrown back at me later on. I think this indictment went way out of its way to stress and point out that this was not about speech. This was not about contesting an election. It was about going around the legal channels, about making backdoor deals, telephone calls, summoning elected leaders to the White House and having them have conversations, attempting to install knowing false electors. I don't think this indictment has any whiff of free speech in it. This talks about actions.
All right, Bill Swore, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to get now to some breaking news. Right now in Washington, the Capitol Police are tweeting the officers are searching in and around the Senate office buildings in response to a concerning 911 call. We're looking at live pictures right now of the scene. They are asking people to stay away from the area while they investigate, and have added that if you are inside the Senate buildings, then you should be sheltering in place. Let's go ahead and bring in our congressional correspondent, Nathaniel Reed, who is live for us right now in the D.C. Bureau. Nate, bring us up to speed on how this all went down and what you're hearing right now.
Well, this is from a short time ago. Capitol Police effectively telling staff members in all three of the Senate office buildings to shelter in place. To be clear, I'm here in the D.C. Bureau. I'm not on Capitol Hill. It is congressional August recess, though, right now. So the vast majority of people who are on the Hill expected to be staff members. Some of them are working remotely. So it's a greatly less number of people than we would see in a kind of typical Senate work period. This is not a work period. This is August recess. So right now, what we know is what Capitol Police is telling people. They're telling people to shelter in place in all three of the Senate office buildings. There's Russell, the oldest Senate office building, and Dirksen and Hart. All three are connected via underground tunnels. Also, the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol, though, not telling members and staffers to shelter in place. Granted, much emptier than it typically is given the August recess. So far, Capitol Police has said that there were reports of an active shooter. To be clear, though, they're also saying that they haven't heard anyone who has, they haven't heard any reports directly of gunshots from a firsthand source. This is all because of what was called a concerning 911 call. A D.C. Fire and EMS received a 911 call about this possible report of an active shooting. Again, we do not have confirmed reports that one took place. I've been texting with staffers in the Capitol. A number of people appear to be working from home. But that being said, I have corresponded with several people who have been evacuated from Russell Senate office building. We saw some video online of people coming with their hands up. U.S. Capitol Police saying that they're going to have a media briefing, media availability at some point in the future. It's not exactly clear if this is ongoing. I've heard conflicting reports on that. But so far, what we know is the Capitol, far fewer staffers than normal are up there because of the August recess. Members, staffers, anyone up there in the Senate office buildings, all three of them told to shelter in place. We're hearing reports that this could be in Russell Senate office building, the oldest of the three Senate office buildings. We also saw another conflicting report. It could also possibly be Hart Senate office building located at 120 Constitution Avenue Northeast. So they're trying to work this out. We don't have a whole ton of details. The most recent note that we've gotten from Capitol Police, those of us who work on Capitol Hill, to move inside your office or nearest office, take emergency equipment and visitors, close, lock, and stay away from external doors and windows. If you're in a public space, find a place to hide or seek cover, remain quiet, and silence electronics. I've been corresponding with staff members who've said they are not. They're being told that they have colleagues on the Hill who are not able to make phone calls. They're asking people to stay off their phones, to not make calls, to remain quiet in their office. No one is allowed to enter or exit any of the Senate office buildings at this point and remain clear of police activity. I'm actually just getting, in the last couple moments, another update. The internal security threat, as I understand, in the last couple seconds, is ongoing. They're still asking occupants of Senate office buildings and offices to move inside the office or nearest office, use emergency equipment, lock, close, and stay away from external doors and windows, and find places to seek cover. So again, not exactly sure what this is or if the threat is still ongoing. there is still much that we are waiting to learn. Capitol Police, as I just mentioned, setting up a briefing location for media to answer questions about this once they get a moment.
All right.
And sorry for looking down. I'm trying to stay up to date here.
No. We understand that you are giving us the news as you get it. And I'm sure they're asking people to stay off their phones right now because they want to keep those emergency lines clear. But Nate, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because we were just looking at some of the video coming in, and it looks as though even though they're giving out the shelter-in-place order, people are evacuating those buildings. And just so viewers understand, because it seems like it wasn't that long ago that Joe St. George and I were talking about coverage, the Supreme Court ruling that came down on affirmative action, and the Supreme Court being evacuated, the area around the Supreme Court. How often do these types of situations occur on Capitol Hill, these security incidents?
I would have to say quite often. I mean, at this point, it's almost up to once per week that there's some sort of suspicious package or something up on Capitol Hill, which raises some alarm, has Capitol Police closing off certain areas of the Capitol complex. Remember, it's a very different mission that Capitol Police have on Capitol Hill versus what, let's say, U.S. Secret Service have at the White House. Secret Service have a closed perimeter. The White House largely closed to public visitors. People have to go through very intensive security screening to get into the White House, surrounded by fencing. The Capitol, a very different story. You can go right up to any of the Senate office or House office buildings, right up, in many cases, to the U.S. Capitol, touch it with your hands, interact with people as they're entering or exiting the building. There is no fence around the Capitol complex, and in large part that is due to political considerations. Members of both sides of the aisle have resisted attempts, even recommendations, for there to be a fence around the Capitol. So again, there is security to enter and exit the Senate office buildings and the Capitol itself. Presumably, whoever made this call had to go through that same level of security. The only people who don't go through security, I want to add, though, members of Congress, senators, former U.S. senators, they're all exempt from security entering or exiting these buildings.
All right, Nathaniel Reed reporting live from Washington, D.C. Nate, of course, we'll be circling back with you. And we're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be right back.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said, go for it. And I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
Wounded Warrior Project has been with me every step of my journey.
Aaron, how you doing, bud?
With experiences that help me realize that I'm not alone.
And specialized programs that give me the tools to train my body and mind.
Now, it's possible for me to get back out there.
To get out of my comfort zone and try new things.
To build and be part of a community that supports other warriors.
It's possible to get the help I need for me and my family.
I got my confidence back. I'm setting goals and I'm achieving them.
It's possible to feel understood. Whether it's day one or 20 years down the road, they've got your back.
And as each warrior's needs evolve, Wounded Warrior Project is adapting to meet them.
Because when we pull together,
It's possible to go further than you ever imagined.
Former Vice President and 2024 presidential hopeful Mike Pence is in Indianapolis today. He spoke at the Indiana State Fair as part of a campaign stop just a day after his former running mate, former President Trump, was indicted in connection to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Pence took to social media after the indictment, sharing, quote, "Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president." Meredith Hackler of Scripps News Indianapolis is on the ground for us at the fair. All right, Meredith, did the former vice president speak about Trump's indictment at all?
Yeah, hi there, Veronica. He did not address it when it came to voters, when it came to his speech that he was communicating with voters. It was an economic message. He said he is the only candidate currently on the Republican ticket that has a plan to address inflation. When he did discuss the indictment, he discussed it with reporters, and he, said along the lines that he did his duty to the American people as well as the Constitution by certifying the election. And he said the same thing that he said in the tweet. He says he feels that anybody who puts himself over the Constitution doesn't deserve to be president again. But he also had a message to the American people. Take a listen.
I just want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. Irrespective of what President Trump and his attorneys have insisted over the last 2.5 years, the Constitution and our laws are clear. And that's a message that I'm going to continue to take to Republican voters who have heard that case and have accepted it, even though it has no basis in history or law.
As for if he believes the president or if this indictment is warranted, he said that everybody is innocent until proven guilty, Veronica.
All right, Meredith Hackler reporting live from Indianapolis. Meredith, thank you so much. In other news at this hour, the union representing Hollywood writers will meet with the studios this week. It's all in an effort to end a strike that began in May. Since then, actors have also gone on strike. Last night, the Writers Guild sent an email to members saying the studios want to restart those talks that have stalled. Most television shows and movie productions have come to a halt. Both guilds want better pay and protections from artificial intelligence. The private sector added more jobs than expected in July. Payroll processing company ADP says companies added 324,000 jobs last month, nearly doubling what economists were predicting. Jobs gains were mostly in leisure and hospitality, while job losses were reported in financial and manufacturing fields. The Bureau of Labor Statistics will release its July jobs report on Friday. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out online at scripsnews.com. We'll be right back.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services. Attention! This is an important message for anyone who spent time at Camp Lejeune before 1988. The U.S. Senate recently passed a bill that will allow anyone who spent time at the base to seek justice for injuries and illness caused by toxic water. You may be entitled to significant compensation from the federal government. A special hotline has been established. Call now for a free case evaluation. Just call 800-806-2823 now. If you or a family member spent time at Camp Lejeune, you consumed toxic water known to cause cancer and other serious health issues, including birth defects, leukemia, Parkinson's disease, miscarriage, and even death. Millions of people may be affected and don't even know it. Call now to see if you or your loved ones qualify for significant compensation from the federal government. Don't wait. The time to file is limited. Don't miss the deadline. Just call 800-806-2823 now. That's 800-806-2823.
My anxiety became overwhelming. Like, I need help beyond just meditating or yoga.
I had had a particularly hard day, and I was like, I need to do it.
And I just found hers, and I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. Right away, I got matched with a provider.
Everything was completely painless.
In just a couple weeks, I noticed such a huge difference. Medication, and hers specifically, has brought me all back together. Get started today at forhers.com.
I'm Shiza, co-founder of Our Place, and this is how we created the 8-in-1 award-winning Always Pan. We partnered with the best experts in sustainability and design.
And after 3 years, 43 prototypes, and hundreds of egg tests later,
we did it. Today, we have over 30,000 5-star reviews, and the Always Pan just keeps selling out. Ready to make cooking a lot easier?
Let's get you up to date on some of our top stories right now. The Pittsburgh synagogue shooter will be sentenced to death. The jury handing down that recommendation today. The gunman killed 11 people during Sabbath services in 2018. He was convicted on all 63 counts linked to the shooting. Prosecutors say he carried out the shooting because of a longtime hatred of Jewish people and showed little remorse after. Rain is helping out fire crews battling a wildfire burning in the Mojave Desert right now, but the flames are threatening the region's spiky Joshua trees. Those trees are found only in the Mojave National Preserve and are unlikely to grow back if they're scorched. The so-called York Fire is California's largest wildfire so far this year and has spread to Nevada. And the Republican National Committee is making it a little harder for presidential hopefuls to land on the second Republican debate stage. Candidates will reportedly need at least 3% in 2 national polls or 3% in 1 national poll, combined with 2 polls from separate early voting states. They will also need at least 50,000 unique voters and 200 donors in 20 states. The second debate has been set for September 27th. Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Donald Trump is denouncing a new set of indictments that accuse the former president of trying to overturn the 2020 election. Those were announced in Washington, D.C. and include 3 counts of conspiracy. He'll appear in court tomorrow afternoon. Special Counsel Jack Smith's indictment also referenced the repeated involvement of 6 co-conspirators, and right now they are not charged or even officially named. But there are enough clues to identify who the special counsel was talking about. National political correspondent Alex Miller has details.
Well, while none of these co-conspirators have been named, there is a ton of information in this indictment that points to exactly who most of them are. I want to go through those people with you and explain why we think they are who they are. So first, Rudy Giuliani. He has been named most likely as co-conspirator number 1. There's a ton of information in here about him, but most notably, he's the one who called for, quote, trial by combat during that Stop the Steal rally. Number 2, John Eastman. He sent a 2-page memo that has now become a very big part of this January 6th investigation. And also, he is the one who really began that pressure campaign on the vice president, demanding that he let state legislatures look into it, really return this back to the states. He's the one who said that the vice president has that power. Number 3, just one word in the indictment let us know who that person is. That word is crazy. In the indictment, this person, co-conspirator number 3, is named as someone who Trump acknowledged to others sounded crazy. Now, the 4th person is really interesting as we read through this indictment. Jeff Clark, he is a DOJ official who worked with the former president while he was in office. This person, Jeff Clark, was promised the attorney general job. And throughout this indictment, it includes back and forths between Clark and another DOJ official, where that official is rebutting Clark's attempts to use the department for the former president, then sitting president Donald Trump. It is clear throughout this indictment how frustrated the Department of Justice is with Clark in particular in this situation, because they frankly work under the same umbrella, and this really goes against everything, obviously, that the Department of Justice stands for. Number 5, Ken Chesborough. He is an attorney who the committee, and now this indictment, says is basically the architect for that fake elector scheme. According to the indictment, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows wrote in an email that there needed to be someone coordinating electors for states. It's clear that Chesborough is the one who they believed that is. And that sixth person, we still do not know who that person is. We know that they are a political consultant. There are a lot of names being floated around on this one. We don't know who it is. We don't know if they will eventually be named. But the fact that it could be so many people shows the investigation that Jack Smith has done, that there are a number of people who worked with the former president in this capacity. The big question now is Jack Smith done? He says the investigation is ongoing, but that there could be indictments of these co-conspirators. There could be more time that Jack Smith works with these co-conspirators if they are to flip on the former president, or if he interviews more people. And then one other thing that we have learned now in the last couple of weeks about Jack Smith is that when he drops an indictment, it doesn't mean that it's over even for the person he indicts. We saw former President Trump indicted earlier this summer in Florida in that documents scheme. We saw just a couple of days ago that he had charges added. So a lot more questions as we prepare to see that arraignment on Thursday. There could obviously be more charges coming down the pike. Alex Miller, Scripps News, Atlanta.
New York's gay community shaken today after the deadly stabbing of a 28-year-old man at a gas station in Brooklyn. O'Shea Sibley was stabbed while voguing to a song by pop star Beyonce. Police suspect it was a hate crime because the victim was gay. That suspect remains at large. Let's get you out live to our national correspondent Axel Tercios, who's outside of the gas station in Brooklyn. All right, Axel, let's go ahead and talk more about this case. What do we know so far about the investigation?
Well, Veronica, the New York City Police Department is telling Scripps News that they have identified a suspect in the stabbing, but no arrests have been made. They are talking about a 17-year-old minor, and this is a shocking incident taking place at this gas station in Brooklyn. We're still able to see blood stains on the sidewalk. The victim, 20-year-old O'Shea Sibley, a beloved professional dancer and choreographer here in New York City, losing his life after being stabbed at this gas station. His friends and witnesses saying that they stopped at this establishment to get gas. At some point, witnesses and also part of the group that was with him saying that a group of young men started shouting homophobic remarks of them after apparently they had been dancing to Beyonce's music here at this gas station. At some point, this situation turned physical, and according to police, the 17-year-old suspect took out a knife and stabbed Sibley in his chest. Scripps News obtained surveillance, a video that shows Sibley approaching the group of young men, exchanging words. Then Sibley's group walks back to the car. Then Sibley and another person walk back towards the group, which appears to be leaving. Sibley appears to lunge for the suspect in red shorts. Meanwhile, he seems to avoid Sibley. We spoke to a representative from the LGBTQ Center here in New York, and she tells us that Sibley is a well-known and dearly loved at the center, and she's telling us that they are shocked at this tragic event.
We host a number of voguing classes. A few of the houses, including O'Shea's House of Old Navy, utilize the center for rehearsals and for gatherings. It's incomprehensible. And so we are angry, we are grieving, and we are, I think, also ready to make sure that there's justice.
Veronica, this incident has gained a lot of attention. New York City Mayor Eric Adams reacting on social media. Also, Beyonce paying a tribute to Sibley on her website. As for Sibley, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. New York City Police Department saying no arrests have been made, and they confirmed to Scripps News that the case is being investigated as a possible hate crime. Veronica.
All right, Axel Tercios reporting live from Brooklyn. Axel, thank you so much. This summer's extreme weather, from heat to hurricanes, taking its toll not only on millions of Americans right now, but also on our power grid. And for those experiencing power losses, getting help is taking a long time. And that is thanks in part due to supply chain issues affecting utility products. Joining us now live is Buddy Haston. He is the president and CEO of Arkansas Electric Cooperatives. He heads up the Department of Energy's team that's been working on the supply chain crisis. Buddy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, Buddy, millions of Americans have been facing these extreme heat waves, and it's also hurricane season. Tell us more about the impact that these extreme weather events have been having on the power grids.
Well, the extreme weather has definitely been challenging the power grid. I mean, anytime it's hot like this, all your peak resources come on. But we have been able to keep the lights on, and I think that's a great story. You talk about hurricanes, I think the impacts there are obvious. It causes power outages. And maybe the concern over supply chain is if the hurricanes come in and cause lots of damage, it creates a need for transformers to go back into those storm affected zones. And right now, there is a shortage of distribution transformers in America. Lead times on those transformers are probably upwards of a year. And then some utilities are finding that even as a longer. And that's for distribution transformers. Those are the ones you'd find out in your neighborhood, on a pole or on a pad somewhere. If you look at the really large transformers, those lead times are extending into the 2, 3, in some cases 4 years. So there really is a supply chain crunch for transformers. So we really dodged a bullet last year. The hurricane season was pretty mild, even though a significant hurricane hit Florida. It didn't really do a lot of damage. It required lots of transformers to be sent in. So let's hope we dodge a bullet this year, because I think with the current supply chain shortage, a bad hurricane season could be challenging.
You're right about that, Buddy. But I wanted to ask you what is behind all of this, what's causing the supply chain issue with this grid equipment. I know that things were backed up during the pandemic, but it seems as though many of those issues have straightened out somewhat. What is causing the issue right now with grid equipment in particular?
Yes, I think the assumption was everyone came out of COVID, and as the economy recovered, all of a sudden people were finding, hey, we can't get these transformers. And it was the natural assumption that people would say that the transformer manufacturers somehow, they were impacted by COVID. The factories couldn't make the same amount of transformers that they had made pre-COVID. Working on this Department of Energy Tiger team, part of our job was to truly spend about a year to understand the problem. Why is supply and demand out of balance? Why is supply not keeping up? What we really found in this study is the supply chain has not fallen down. So, COVID, while it impacted them, it really didn't cause a big drop off in the number of transformers produced. Quite the opposite is true. In some cases in 2021, some of the transformer manufacturers had record output production, but the demand train was outrunning the supply train. Quite frankly, demand for transformers has really gone up. I think there's a bunch of reasons for that. One is you're seeing a continuing transformation of electric grid to distributed resources. And so if you had one power plant that closed, but you put lots of distributed resources on, every one of those new resources requires a new transformer. You've just got general electrification going on in general. Think about electric vehicles. Every one of those charging stations or require a transformer, or if lots of homes put in EV charging in their home, that subdivision needs a larger transformer. All of those require replacement transformers. Plus, you've got a lot of efforts going on to harden the grid with storms in those areas. And then a lot of this infrastructure was put in decades ago, and it's coming due for replacement. You add all those factors together, and it's created a demand for transformers that has outpaced the supply chain's ability to keep up.
So what sort of timeline are we looking at here for things to get back to normal when it comes to supply? Could we continue to see these types of outages? What should people be expecting as summer wears on?
Well, I think as far as the transformer supply, right now we're keeping up. So people should expect us to keep the lights on. I think that's our job in the utility industry. As far as utilities planning ahead, I think a lot of utilities are having to do 2021 and 2022. They've been doing a lot longer range planning. So now knowing that lead times are a year out or longer, They're doing much longer range planning on things that used to be available in like 6 to 8 weeks is now taking 50, 60, 70 weeks to get. So they've been doing that for some time. I think that's going to continue, though. Manufacturers are doing lots of work to improve output. For instance, Arkansas Electric, the cooperative I'm a part of, we own ERMCO, which is a distribution transformer manufacturer. And they have about, they make about 25-30% of all the distribution transformers in America, and been doing a lot of work to improve output. And so in ballpark figures, that company made about 600,000 transformers last year. Through a whole lot of work, that output will jump up to about 700,000. And that's pretty notable because at 600,000, that was a pretty much running as full out. So that you take a manufacturing facility that's producing as much as it can, and to jump it by that much has been a lot of work. But I still think all of these electrification efforts, all this other stuff is going to continue. So I don't see the strain lightening up in 2023. And I think manufacturers will continue to struggle to keep up with it and continue to put actions in place to try to drive up supply to meet demand.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Buddy Hassan is the president and CEO of Arkansas Electric Cooperatives. Buddy, thank you so much for stopping by today. We appreciate it. All right, want to give you an update now on the news that we brought you at the top of the hour. An all clear has now been given on Capitol Hill after a 911 call was made regarding a possible active shooter. Let's go ahead and bring in our congressional correspondent, Nathaniel Reed, who's live in the D.C. Bureau right now. All right, Nate, so I understand that an all clear has been given. What have you learned so far? What more can you tell us?
To be clear, I'm not sure that all clear has been given just yet on Capitol Hill, but it is expected. The Metropolitan Police Department, who was conducting this joint investigation with Capitol Police, I just spoke with the spokesperson a few moments ago, Hugh Carew. He tells us that someone called in a 911 call alleging that there was an active shooter on Capitol Hill. Upon investigation and a partial evacuation and shelter in place at the Senate office building, specifically Russell Senate office building, they found that that call wasn't true. So it's not clear yet if an all clear has been given on Capitol Hill yet, but one is expected momentarily, given that Metropolitan Police Department has found that it was effectively a bad call. Someone erroneously called in a 911 call alleging that there had been an active shooter. No evidence has been found of an active shooter. We are expecting that all clear momentarily. All right, sounds good. Nate Reed in Washington. Nate, thank you so much for the update there. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, back to school is here. What you can do to make sure that your student is ready to tackle a new year. And we'd like to hear from you right now. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll free and it's on your screen. It's 1-833-472-7477 or 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. For over a century, we've guaranteed the highest quality in everything we offer. To celebrate, we're offering you 50% off site-wide. That means you'll save 50% and get our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. Never tried Omaha Steaks? Save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
After uncovering hundreds of children's overdoses nationwide, congressional reaction to our Scripps News investigation. Scripps News investigates the silent toll of the fentanyl epidemic. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. So it's at least 2 months from the start of flu season, but pharmacies are urging people to start thinking about their flu shot now. CVS already taking appointments for the shot, which should be available beginning next month. Pharmacies will also offer the vaccines for RSV, which is a common respiratory infection that in most people causes mild cold-like symptoms. But it can be deadly for infants and older adults. Doctors recommend vaccinations for both. With the start of school just around the corner, some students might be feeling a little anxious. Health experts are saying that being nervous is normal, but there are ways to help ease the transition. First, recognize that anxiety looks different in children than in adults. Things like fidgeting, being tearful, or unable to make eye contact when talking about school are good indicators. Try using open-ended questions when talking to your child about school before turning to problem solving.
If they're really nervous about being able to unlock their locker quickly, get a lock at home and help them practice it.
Other healthy habits that may ease their anxiety: getting quality sleep, focusing on good nutrition, being active and reducing screen time, and teaching coping skills like taking a big breath when your child is feeling overwhelmed. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, a long journey for a piece of history is almost over. Inside the final steps to restore a World War II era locomotive back to its former glory. And we'd like to remind you to follow us at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. We'll be right back.
To a child, this is what conflict looks like. Children in Ukraine are caught in the crossfire of war, forced to flee their homes.
A steady stream of refugees has been coming across all day. It's bitterly cold.
Lacking clean water and sanitation, exposed to injury, hunger.
Exhausted and shell-shocked from what they've been through.
Every dollar you give can help bring a meal, a blanket, or simply hope to a child living in conflict. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. That's just 33 cents a day. We cannot forget the children in places like Syria, born in refugee camps, playing in refugee camps, thinking of the camps as home. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. Your gift can help children like Ara in Afghanistan, where nearly 20 years of conflict have forced the people into extreme poverty. Weakened and unable to hold herself up, Ara was brought to a Save the Children center where she was diagnosed and treated for severe malnutrition. Every dollar helps. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month, just 33 cents a day. And thanks to special government grants that are available now, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Save the Children tote bag to show you won't forget the children who are living their lives in conflict. Every war is a war against children. Please, give now.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is Endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
You pick the mechanic you trust.
acts now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
I work at Lumi Deodorant, and I'm going to tell you how to get the best deal on Lumi. It's the starter pack. You pick 2 full-size deodorants, and you get 2 mystery items for free and free shipping. So now's your chance to try Lumi Whole Body Deodorant with 72 hours of odor control.
Sunday nights on In Real Life, Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
And to the heart of the story. In Real Life, Sunday at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back. So work is underway right now to restore a locomotive first made famous after appearing on the cover of Life magazine back in 1969. And it served as a backdrop for a photo of music legend Johnny Cash. Aaron Cantrell from Scripps News Nashville explains the final crucial step to bring the steam engine back to life.
Stephen Hook is in full concentration mode as he guides this locomotive back into the shop.
Keeping my eyes on any wood blocks, chocks, any wheels starting to climb the rail.
Because if something goes wrong, it would be devastating, because the restoration on engine number 576 has been a passion project for many people.
If it was able to drag me up through Nashville traffic after high school on a Friday afternoon just to get to work maybe an hour or 2 hours before the sun went down on this thing.
In 2019, the Nashville Steam Preservation Society moved this piece of history from Centennial Park over here to a shop, and the restoration project has been full steam ahead ever since.
All the work that we've had to do sitting out here in the parking lot in the rain, in the snow, you know, hauling our tools out every single day and putting them back in every single day, back and forth, you know, for years.
Reaching a milestone recently, reinstalling the wheels, requiring them to lift the 220,000-pound train 18 feet in the air.
And as the last survivor of locomotives from that railroad, it's going to be a great opportunity to show it off and get to say, hey, listen, there's a lot that came before us.
It's been a long journey to get to this moment, and Hook doesn't want to ruin it.
Making sure that no wheels try to climb the rail and step off of the rail. And making sure that it's guiding through this curve nice and easy.
And without a hitch, the World War II era steam locomotive was back in the shop.
It did fantastic.
Now Hook and his team can put the finishing touches on it.
It's starting to resemble what it once was, but also more importantly, what it was like in the 40s. Nobody's seen it in this good condition.
As a kid who grew up playing on this train in the park, Hook can't help but boil over with joy watching this locomotive get its character back.
We're definitely hoping that within the next 2 years, we'll be able to have the locomotive out, have it under steam, have the whistle sounding, and have everybody